to get out in front of this and tried to persuade Netflix not to come forward with it. I think it's an interesting argument because what they're claiming is, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, has had a long-standing, animosity against Diddy and sort of vice versa. And because he's at the helm, they're arguing this can't be taken seriously. This should sort of be seen as propaganda. And one of the things that Netflix hit back with was, yes, he's the executive producer. He doesn't necessarily have creative control. And that's something.
They tried to stop it before it ever aired. Behind the scenes, there were quiet efforts to convince Netflix to shelve the project. The argument that with Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, serving as executive producer, the documentary couldn't possibly be objective. His long-running feud with Sean Diddy Combs, critics claimed, made the series feel less like journalism and more like a vendetta. Netflix pushed back. Yes, 50 Cent is an executive producer, but that doesn't mean he controls the edit, the narrative, or the final cut. And with that, the documentary moved forward. Then the audio dropped. A recorded message from inside a prison facility began circulating online, grainy, distorted by the phone system, but unmistakable. The voice carried the tone of a man used to commanding boardrooms and red carpets, now speaking from confinement. The public was told Diddy's empire had been neutralized, silenced, contained. The recording suggested otherwise. The message referenced strange phrases: worm food, vitamin E, keeping insects away from the property. Internet sleuths immediately began dissecting the language, convinced it was coded communication. Whether theatrical bravado or something more strategic, one thing was clear: he did not sound defeated. At the same time, Netflix released The Reckoning, a documentary examining decades of allegations, lawsuits, and internal fallout surrounding Diddy's business empire. The twist? Some of the most explosive footage came from recordings Diddy himself had commissioned before his federal indictment. He had hired a videographer to document his life, a calculated attempt to control the narrative ahead of mounting legal trouble. But that decision may have backfired. Cameras captured conversations with his attorney, discussing strategy, media counterattacks, and legal maneuvering. The presence of a third party in those meetings could complicate claims of attorney-client privilege. Somewhere along.
We just got this new audio from the Diddy trial, and it is pretty explosive. This is audio of a voicemail that Diddy left to the Jane Doe who's been testifying in this trial for the last couple days. And he sounds really annoyed. He's talking about her maybe giving him the silent treatment, and his response is, I got a busy life, I can't be dealing with your silent treatment, and we got to...
Diddy's team fired back with cease and desist letters, arguing the material violated NDAs and was unlawfully distributed. Netflix maintained it was obtained legally. The bigger question isn't just how the footage surfaced, but who decided to release it. Meanwhile, civil lawsuits continue to mount. Among them, allegations that during a 2012 encounter, Diddy invoked the murder of Tupac Shakur as a threat, allegedly telling someone, "If I can get Shakur hit, what do you think can happen to you?" The claim echoes long-standing accusations made by Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, who has publicly alleged that Diddy once offered money tied to the 1996 shooting. No charges have been filed against Diddy in connection to Tupac's death, but the renewed attention has reopened old wounds and raised new questions. Financially, the pressure is just as intense. Reports suggest court oversight and asset scrutiny have tightened control over his holdings. Once estimated at hundreds of millions, his net worth has reportedly declined significantly amid legal battles and business fallout. The Justice Department is pursuing forfeiture actions tied to certain properties and ventures, arguing some were connected to alleged criminal conduct. Staff departures, legal fees, public distancing from former associates. The optics are stark, yet in the leaked call, he doesn't sound like someone preparing to fade away. He sounds energized, strategic, like someone who believes he still holds leverage, perhaps in the form of information, recordings, or secrets accumulated over decades in the industry. Names were mentioned. High-profile figures. Celebrities who once attended lavish parties, now publicly distancing themselves. One star even clarified publicly that he had nothing to do with Diddy. Silence in...
Hard to say because there's still such a big question mark in the air because, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, is one of the executive producers on this series. Him, the director, Netflix in general is not saying where they got this footage, only that it was obtained legally. Diddy's side is saying this is coming from a videographer I hired. I know we'll get into the cease and desist. One of the arguments they make is, this is subject to NDAs or agreements that the videographer had signed with Diddy because he was, employed by Diddy.
The documentary paints a picture of a mogul who operated with extraordinary confidence. Some would call it recklessness. Allegations stretch back decades, including disputes with former partners like Kurt Burrows, who claims he was forced out of Bad Boy Records under intimidation. Those claims were once dismissed as business disputes. In today's context, they land differently. The federal trial produced mixed results. While he was acquitted on certain major charges, other convictions confirmed that transportation across state lines for illicit purposes had occurred. His reputation, regardless of legal technicalities, has been deeply damaged. The larger question now isn't just what he's lost, it's what he might still have. If the cryptic language in that prison call is anything more than bluster, it suggests he believes there are others with something to fear. But leverage only works if people believe you're willing and able to use it. And time changes that calculation. The documentary was the first wave. The leaked audio was the second. What happens next depends on whether the people once in his orbit think he can still hurt them, or whether they've decided the safest move is to let him fall alone. Because when someone who built a career controlling narratives is left with nothing but a recorded phone line, what they say next tends to matter. And desperation, in a story this volatile, is often the most dangerous element of all. Here's a more explosive, heightened continuation. Darker, sharper, and even more cinematic. But here's where it gets unsettling. The prison call wasn't just emotional. It sounded tactical. The pauses felt intentional, the phrases repeated, the tone calculated. Not a rant, a reminder. He referenced samples. He talked about materials being kept safe. He hinted that certain people were acting like they don't even know they're being recorded. That's not the language of someone reflecting on past mistakes.
Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah, you'll have a rude awakening.
And in Hollywood, receipts are currency. For decades, Diddy moved at the center of power. Music, fashion, liquor deals, award shows, political fundraisers, private parties. If even a fraction of what's implied in that call is real, then the real fear isn't what's already public, it's what hasn't surfaced yet. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. People only distance themselves this aggressively when they're worried proximity could become liability. Photos disappear, old interviews get scrubbed. We were never that close, statements start trending. That's not coincidence, that's crisis management. Meanwhile, the documentary doesn't just focus on the recent charges. It threads a pattern, from early bad boy disputes to the City College tragedy in 1991, to allegations of intimidation in business splits, to the civil avalanche that followed Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. Separately, each event was survivable. Together, they tell a different story. A story about control. Control of artists. Control of narrative. Control of silence. And now, control is slipping. Financial pressure is tightening. Asset forfeiture looms. Court oversight means money moves slower. Lawyers cost millions. Loyalty gets expensive when headlines get toxic. That's when power dynamics shift. The most dangerous moment for a fallen mogul isn't when they're on top, it's when they realize they're cornered. Because a cornered operator doesn't negotiate from weakness. He negotiates from mutual destruction. That's what the worm food language feels like to some observers. Not literal, but symbolic. A warning that if he goes down, he won't go quietly. And then there's the Tupac thread. For years, allegations tying Diddy to conversations about the 1996 shooting were dismissed as rumor. Now, with Keefe D facing trial and suggesting Diddy could be called as a witness, the narrative reopens, not as conspiracy, but as courtroom strategy. If he's subpoenaed, every answer matters. If he denies...
We're following breaking news out of New York City. The jury in the Sean Diddy Combs racketeering conspiracy and trafficking trial has reached a verdict on 4 of the 5.
And juries don't like ego. Public opinion has already shifted. The white parties once symbolized exclusivity, now they're referenced in documentaries with ominous music. The cultural rewrite is happening in real time. But here's the question no one can answer yet. Does he actually have explosive material and powerful figures? Or is this the final bluff of a man who built an empire on perception? Because if there are recordings, real ones, involving industry titans, politicians, or A-list celebrities, then this isn't just the collapse of one mogul. It's the beginning of a wider unraveling. And that's why people are nervous. Not because of what's proven, not because of what's charged, but because of what might still be hidden. The documentary was Chapter 1. The leaked call was Chapter 2. Chapter 3 depends on whether someone else decides to flip first. And in a world where secrets are insurance policies, the person who talks first often survives. The only thing more dangerous than a powerful man at his peak is a powerful man with nothing left to protect. And judging by that call, he doesn't sound finished. Here's an even more intensified high-stakes continuation, sharper, darker, and built for maximum suspense. Now imagine the psychology of this moment. A man who once controlled radio rotations, award stages, fashion runways, liquor empires, and political access, now limited to scheduled phone minutes and monitored conversations. For someone like that, control isn't just...
He outlines allegations of battery, assault, sexual violence, physical and psychological abuse, labor trafficking, he says. And a lot of what Deontay Nash says in this complaint mirrors testimony that we heard during that trial, both from Nash and from others, like Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who was a key...
And oxygen is running thin. The prison call doesn't sound like surrender. It sounds like calibration. Like someone measuring who's still loyal, who's drifting, who might panic under pressure. When he mentions people acting like they don't even know they're being recorded, that lands differently in an industry built on private rooms and NDAs. Because everyone knows how those rooms worked. For decades, proximity to him meant opportunity. Careers launched. Deals signed. Invitations extended to rooms most people never even see. But proximity also means shared memory, shared experiences, shared risk, and risk spreads fast when investigations begin. The documentary doesn't just accuse, it reframes. It suggests that what looked like charisma may have been coercion, that what looked like mentorship may have been leverage, that what looked like excess may have been control disguised as luxury. That reframing is devastating. Because once the public starts viewing old footage through a new lens, the past becomes evidence. The voicemail to Jane Doe adds another layer, the tone, the impatience, the threat masked as frustration. You'll have a rude awakening. That phrase alone has been dissected thousands of times online. Was it emotional manipulation, habitual intimidation, or simply ego refusing rejection? Juries don't analyze like fans do. They listen for patterns. And patterns are emerging. Then there's the financial squeeze. When management firms tighten access, when staff quietly leave, when legal teams expand but retainers shrink. Money isn't just comfort, it's defense, and defense is expensive. If assets freeze, leverage shrinks. And that's where the speculation about insurance grows louder. Hollywood has always operated on mutual vulnerability. You don't expose me, I don't expose you. It's not written, it's understood. The prison call hints at that ecosystem. The coded language suggests archives, material.
This is the flight where Diddy said to her,
showed her
she
the video,
testified
showed her
that
the freak-off video.
he showed her a video of a freak-off that she participated in and said, if you don't participate in another freak-off when we get to New York, I'm going to put this video out. I'm going to send it to your mother.
And that's coercion.
She testified to that.
If the jury
they believed her,
yeah,
that's coercion. They would have
But here's the risk of playing that card. If you imply you're holding secrets, you force others to calculate whether silence still benefits them. That's when distancing turns into strategy. The speed at which former associates clarified they had nothing to do with him is telling. It's not just optics, it's positioning. Because in a legal landscape, distance equals insulation. And then the two-pack dimension re-enters the frame. For years, allegations floated in the realm of hip-hop law. Now, with Keefe D awaiting trial and courtroom discussions potentially reopening narratives, what was once dismissed as myth could become sworn testimony. Even if he's never charged, being dragged into that case publicly under oath would cement a connection that headlines alone can't erase. That's reputational damage at a historic scale. Meanwhile, the documentary
The judge didn't go into not really the judge, the government didn't go into too many details about the extent of the plea offer, but one thing that they had said was pretty much that under the plea offer, he would be facing less time than he's facing if he would have gone to trial. So when the allocution portion came, Diddy stood up, the judge kind of read him everything that he had needed to read to him, just about whether or not...
Social media dissects every frame. Old interviews resurface. Body language experts go viral analyzing clips from 20 years ago. The narrative machine that once worked for him is now working against him. And that might be the most painful shift of all. Because when you build an empire on perception, losing control of perception feels like annihilation. So the real question becomes, is he orchestrating a counterstrike from confinement? Or are we witnessing the final echoes of a man who mistook influence for immunity? The next move determines everything. If more recordings surface, the industry trembles. If nothing surfaces, the bluff is exposed. But either way, the era of unquestioned dominance is over. The white parties, the champagne toasts, the larger-than-life entrances, all of it now sits under the harshest possible light. And here's the chilling part. When powerful figures fall, they rarely fall alone. They pull at threads, and sometimes those threads connect to places no one expected. The silence in Hollywood right now isn't calm, it's calculation. And somewhere inside a monitored prison phone system,
they needed to show that there was an agreement, that the organization knew what it was doing, that it was an enterprise, not in law, but in fact, that people understood the object of the enterprise, which was to promote Sean Combs and his brands and sort of fulfill any deviant desires he may have had, and then to cover up any crimes committed over the course of fulfilling those desires.
Look at the pattern. When Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit, it was settled quickly, but it triggered something bigger. Others followed. Stories that had allegedly stayed buried for years resurfaced almost immediately. That tells you something. It tells you people were waiting for an opening. And once an opening appears, silence fractures. Now combine that with a prison call that sounds less like regret and more like warning. The tone isn't apologetic, it isn't reflective. It carries the cadence of someone who still believes he has bargaining power. That's either confidence or delusion. But here's the strategic danger of coded threats. If they're real, they escalate everything. If they're empty, they expose weakness. Either outcome shifts the board. Meanwhile, the industry response has been careful, not loud, not defensive, careful. Statements are short. Lawyers are involved. Publicists are proactive. Old associations are minimized. You don't see many people rushing to defend him passionately. You see distance. Distance is survival. And then there's the financial dimension. Arguably, the most telling of all, when asset forfeiture becomes a real possibility, the conversation changes.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliation."
It's about liquidation, properties, businesses, brand equity, all potentially vulnerable. Once that process begins, loyalty becomes transactional. People who were once protected by proximity may suddenly decide cooperation is safer than allegiance. That's when things unravel fast. And let's not ignore the psychological shift of confinement. A mogul used to private jets and exclusive rooms now operates inside monitored walls. The only real power left is information. If he believes information is leverage, then the prison phone becomes a weapon. But weapons cut both ways, because every call is recorded, every word can be analyzed.
He talks in this complaint read about fearing for his life, not just while he was working for Sean Combs, but afterwards. He tells stories about physical violence, about a time where he actually had to drive 100 miles an hour to try to escape Mr. Combs, and says he didn't call the police because he worried that that would be a sentence.
And in Hollywood, receipts are currency. For decades, Diddy moved at the center of power. Music, fashion, liquor deals, award shows, political fundraisers, private parties. If even a fraction of what's implied in that call is real, then the real fear isn't what's already public, it's what hasn't surfaced yet. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. People only distance themselves this aggressively when they're worried proximity could become liability. Photos disappear, old interviews get scrubbed. "We were never that close," statements start trending. That's not coincidence, that's crisis management. Meanwhile, the documentary doesn't just focus on the recent charges. It threads a pattern, from early bad boy disputes to the City College tragedy in 1991, to allegations of intimidation in business splits, to the civil avalanche that followed Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. Separately, each event was survivable. Together, they tell a different story. A story about control. Control of artists. Control of narrative. Control of silence. And now, control is slipping. Financial pressure is tightening. Asset forfeiture looms. Court oversight means money moves slower. Lawyers cost millions. Loyalty gets expensive when headlines get toxic. That's when power dynamics shift. The most dangerous moment for a fallen mogul isn't when they're on top. It's when they realize they're cornered. Because a cornered operator doesn't negotiate from weakness. He negotiates from mutual destruction. That's what the worm food language feels like to some observers. Not literal, but symbolic. A warning that if he goes down, he won't go quietly. And then there's the Tupac thread. For years, allegations tying Diddy to conversations about the 1996 shooting were dismissed as rumor. Now, with Keefe D facing trial and suggesting Diddy could be called as a witness, the narrative reopens, not as conspiracy, but as courtroom strategy. If he's subpoenaed, every answer matters,